Have you ever wondered why some men stay in love forever while others lose interest the moment things get comfortable? It's not beauty, wealth, or the perfect personality. It comes down to one powerful boundary that almost no one talks about. It is the boundary of emotional expectation, the courage to say, I need reciprocity. I need to feel chosen too. Most people are afraid to express what they want because they worry it will scare someone away. And yes, sometimes it will. But the truth is, the wrong men leave when you set boundaries and the right men step up. That is the first secret no one teaches us. We think love is earned through patience, silence, and proving we are low maintenance, when in reality, a man falls in love when he realizes he could lose a woman who values herself. This boundary is not an ultimatum. It is clarity. It's saying, without drama, I want to invest in someone who invests back. When a woman states this calmly, it becomes a moment of emotional honesty, and men feel that. Psychology repeatedly shows that people value what they are required to contribute to. When something is free forever, we stop noticing its worth. But when something meaningful expects responsibility, our mind tells us this matters. In the book Attached, relationships are shown to thrive when both partners understand each other's needs rather than suppress them. And that is what this boundary creates: understanding. A man is not forced to love more, but he is invited to rise into his best. When he does, he falls deeper than he ever has before because he is building love through consistent action, not just chemistry. The reason this boundary works is simple. Without it, a relationship feels like a guessing game, and guesswork kills connection. When a woman expresses what she needs, she removes confusion. A man doesn't have to be perfect, he only has to try, and that effort makes him emotionally invested. Imagine a man seeing a woman who is kind, loving, fun, and understanding, but who at the same time is not afraid to say, I am not available for one-sided. That woman is unforgettable. She is not trying to keep him by chasing, fixing, or proving her worth. She is letting her standards speak for her. Men respect what you respect. They take seriously what you take seriously. This is where love begins to transform. The boundary filters out the emotionally unavailable and brings in men who are ready to build something real. A man in love forever is not a man who was convinced, impressed, or chased. He is a man who saw that if he didn't show up, she would keep moving forward with her life. And instead of being intimidated, he felt inspired. That is the hidden truth behind lasting attraction. Love deepens when someone feels they earn their partner, not through games, but through presence, empathy, and showing up. And when a man chooses you in that way, he doesn't fall in love for a moment, he falls in love for a lifetime. Men fall more deeply for women who set one powerful emotional boundary, because that boundary becomes the defining moment where he realizes she is not someone who will love him at the cost of herself. It shows him she is willing to walk away rather than remain in a relationship where she is not respected, seen, or valued. That kind of self-respect is rare, and because of that, it is unforgettable. Most people are taught to believe that love means accommodating, understanding, being patient, and giving someone time. While those things matter, without boundaries, they often become excuses for staying in situations that are one-sided. When a woman sets the boundary of emotional expectation, I want someone who shows up for me as much as I show up for them, she is not demanding perfection. She is creating a framework for healthy love. She is saying that feelings should be a two-way exchange, not a one-way sacrifice. And that changes everything. Men fall harder when they realize they cannot take someone for granted. When someone is always available, always understanding, always giving without question, the human brain begins to see that consistency as normal. It becomes background noise, not because the person is unworthy, but because we are wired to value what requires investment. This is why in psychology and behavioral science, effort is often linked with emotional bonding. When a man has to contribute, adapt, or stretch to meet a woman emotionally, he becomes more invested in the relationship. The boundary gives him that opportunity. Instead of her carrying the emotional labor of the connection, both share it. Instead of her trying to fill all the empty space, both take responsibility for closing the gap, and that shared effort strengthens his emotional attachment. Another reason this boundary makes men fall deeply is that it eliminates confusion. Many relationships fail not because there is a lack of attraction, but because there is a lack of clarity. One person assumes if they cared, they would try, while the other assumes if there was a problem, they would say it. Feelings go unspoken, needs go unmet, and love slowly erodes in silence. But the moment a woman expresses what she expects emotionally, a man doesn't need to guess. He knows the standard. He knows what matters to her. He knows what investment looks like. And once he knows, he has the ability to step into that role. When he does, he becomes an active participant in building the relationship rather than a passive receiver of her affection. Men also fall more deeply because this boundary filters them. It separates those who want attention from those who want partnership. A boundary is like a mirror. When a man sees it, he sees who he is in the reflection. The one who disappears is not a loss. He is a reveal. The one who stays communicates and steps into greater emotional presence becomes someone who chooses love instead of just enjoying it. And that is where lasting connection grows, not from pressure or demands, but from clarity, respect, and two people showing up instead of one expressing needs early builds attraction, not pressure, because it sets the tone for an honest connection from the start. Many people wait too long to communicate what they want because they fear the other person will think they are needy, demanding, or difficult. They worry that speaking their truth will push someone away. But what actually pushes people away is pretending everything is fine when it isn't. When you speak your needs early, you show emotional maturity. You show that you are not building a fantasy relationship in your head, but creating something grounded in mutual respect. A man who is capable of love does not run from clarity. He is relieved by it. It removes the pressure of guessing and replaces the fear of what does she want from me with the certainty of here is how I can show up. Healthy attraction isn't built through silence or subtle hints. It grows from understanding. When someone knows what matters to you, they can choose to act in alignment with it. If they don't know, they cannot meet your needs even if they want to. Think about how messy relationships become when one person is quietly hurt and the other has no idea. That emotional mismatch creates resentment, confusion, and emotional distance. But when someone says early in a calm voice, consistency matters to me, or I feel valued when communication doesn't disappear, they are giving the relationship a roadmap. A man who is serious will listen and use that information. And a man who is not will feel exposed because he can no longer hide behind excuses, unpredictability, or emotional vagueness. Expressing needs early also shows that you value your time and emotional energy. People pick up on what you tolerate. If you accept breadcrumb communication, last-minute plans, or emotional inconsistency from the beginning, that sets the standard. The relationship will continue at that level because you unintentionally taught the other person that your needs don't require attention. But the moment you articulate what works for you, you create a new emotional contract. It says, if this connection continues, it must grow in a way that supports both of us. That is not pressure. That is fairness. And fairness builds attraction because it demonstrates that you respect both the relationship and yourself. There is also something deeply attractive about a person who knows who they are in relationships. We often believe that being easygoing makes us more desirable. Being flexible is valuable, but having no personal boundaries does not make a relationship easier. It makes it directionless. People cannot bond deeply with someone whose inner world they can't see. When you articulate your emotional needs, you are letting someone into that world. You are showing them what love looks like to you. That vulnerability, when done with calm confidence, creates closeness rather than tension. It makes a man feel that he is not just dating your surface self, but your real self. And that depth is what forms lasting attraction because it lays the foundation for emotional partnership instead of emotional guessing. Self-respect is more magnetic than perfection because perfection is something people admire from a distance, but self-respect is something they feel when they are close to you. A person who respects themselves communicates something powerful without having to say a word, I know my worth, and I will not trade it for crumbs. This is the kind of presence that makes romantic connection deeper because it shows that your heart is available, but your dignity is not negotiable. Many people believe that love is won by being flawless, always agreeable, or never making mistakes. They try to appear effortless, impressive, or unbothered, thinking this will make someone stay. But real connection is not created when someone sees you as perfect. It is created when someone sees that you honor yourself. When a man notices that you make choices based on what aligns with your well-being, he realizes he cannot take you for granted, and that realization builds respect. Self-respect is magnetic because it changes the energy of how you communicate. Someone without self-respect might say yes when they mean no, stay silent to avoid conflict, or accept inconsistency out of fear of losing the relationship. A person with self-respect communicates from truth rather than insecurity. They can say, this doesn't feel good, or I need something different, without anger or emotional drama. That calm clarity makes people listen. When someone sees that you have the courage to express what you deserve, they instinctively recognize that you are not someone they can keep with empty promises or half-hearted effort. They will either rise to meet you or remove themselves. And that is the value of self-respect. It filters without you having to force anything. Self-respect is also magnetic because it shows that you have a center, a life, and a purpose outside the relationship. People are drawn to individuals who are grounded and whole, not dependent on external validation to feel worthy. When a man meets someone who has passion, standards, and an identity that does not collapse in the presence of love, he feels he is connecting with a complete person, not someone asking to be completed. That difference changes the entire dynamic of attraction. Instead of trying to win someone over, he feels he is being invited into someone's already meaningful world. That invitation is far more attractive than chasing someone who needs attention to feel alive. In romantic relationships, self-respect deepens love because it makes emotional safety possible. When you value yourself, you instinctively set better boundaries. You protect your peace, your time, and your emotional space. This makes the relationship more stable, not more rigid. A person who respects themselves is less likely to explode, cling, or shut down when something feels off. Instead, they address issues early, communicate honestly, and approach problems with maturity. Men feel secure with someone who is steady in this way because the relationship becomes a place of clarity instead of confusion. He does not have to fear hidden resentment or unspoken expectations because he is with someone who takes themselves seriously enough to speak up when something matters. Boundaries eliminate emotional confusion and increase connection because they take what is usually invisible and make it visible. Most relationships struggle not because people don't care about each other, but because they are trying to read minds, pick up hints, or interpret signals instead of speaking directly. When someone feels hurt but says nothing, when someone needs more effort but pretends they are fine, when someone is unsure where the relationship stands but is afraid to ask, the emotional space between two people fills with assumptions. Assumptions create distance. Distance creates insecurity, and insecurity kills the very connection both people are trying to protect. But when someone sets a clear emotional boundary and communicates what they need or cannot accept, that fog lifts. Suddenly, both people can see the relationship for what it is, and they can decide together where it's going. That clarity is not restrictive, it is liberating because it gives love a structure to grow within. Emotional confusion often starts early. Someone pulls back, but the other doesn't know if it means stress, disinterest, or temporary distraction. Someone begins investing deeply but has no idea whether the other person is on the same page. Without boundaries, each person starts telling themselves their own version of the story. One might think, if I ask where this is going, he'll think I'm too serious. The other might think, if she wanted more, she would tell me. Both hold back. Both hesitate. Both fill the silence with their fears. That is how emotional closeness begins to slip away, not through dramatic arguments, but through quiet misalignment. A boundary spoken calmly and confidently cuts through that misalignment. It says, "This is where I stand," and invites the other person to stand with you or let you go. Either outcome is healthier than emotional guessing because at least the truth is known. Boundaries also increase connection because they teach the other person how to love you. People often assume the one they care for should automatically understand their needs, but every human being comes with their own history, love language, and emotional habits. Some grew up in households where affection was spoken openly. Others learned that love meant silence and self-sacrifice. Without boundaries, these two emotional worlds can collide and misunderstand each other. But the moment someone says, "Consistency helps me feel secure," or "If we talk about problems, I feel closer," or "When communication disappears, I feel disconnected," they're giving their partner the instructions that make the relationship stronger. Instead of feeling like they are failing at an unwritten test, the other person has a map. And when someone has a map, they can show up in ways that matter. There is also something deeply connecting about the act of expressing a boundary. It requires vulnerability, courage, and honesty. When you communicate not to control the other person, but to share your inner experience, you pull the relationship into deeper emotional territory. Suddenly, the connection is no longer built on surface level behavior, but on shared understanding. Two people are no longer standing across from each other wondering what the other thinks. They are now facing the same direction, looking at the same truth, and deciding together what comes next. The right boundary separates mature men from unavailable ones because it reveals in a single moment who is truly ready to build a relationship and who is only interested in the benefits of one. Many people can enjoy attention, affection, and companionship, but not everyone can commit to the emotional effort that lasting love requires. When a woman sets a boundary like, "I'm not available for inconsistency," or "I want something real," not a situationship, she is not pushing someone away. She is allowing the person to reveal themselves. An emotionally available man hears that boundary and thinks, "Good. Now I know what matters to her, and I can step into this with intention." An unavailable man hears the same thing and silently steps back because he wants the connection only as long as it demands nothing from him. This is why boundaries act like a filter. They make people choose, and that choice exposes their emotional maturity or lack of it without debates, arguments, or months of confusion. Many people fear setting boundaries because they think it will scare someone off. The irony is that a boundary doesn't scare away the right person, it saves you from the wrong one. When someone is not ready for a real relationship, they will always prefer the kind of connection that stays undefined. They like the gray area where they can come close when it suits them and pull away without accountability. The problem is that the person who wants real love ends up waiting, hoping, and trying to prove their worth, while the emotionally unavailable person continues at their own pace. But when a boundary is set early, this imbalance cannot continue. Either the other person begins showing up with effort, communication, and presence, or the relationship naturally fades because the boundary removed the comfort of emotional ambiguity. This protects the person who is ready for love from wasting months or even years on a connection that was never meant to evolve. A mature man welcomes a boundary because he understands that love is not only a feeling but a responsibility. He knows that connection requires effort, reassurance, consistency, and emotional honesty. When a woman expresses what she needs, he doesn't feel controlled, he feels informed. He thinks, now I know how to love her better. This mindset shows emotional readiness. The unavailable man reacts differently because a boundary removes his ability to enjoy intimacy without contributing to it. He feels pressured not because the boundary is unreasonable, but because he never intended to participate fully in the first place. This distinction is crucial. Without boundaries, the emotionally unavailable person blends in. They can look affectionate, connected, charming, and involved, but they avoid moving forward in any meaningful way. A boundary brings that pattern to the surface quickly. It exposes who is capable of relational growth and who is trying to avoid it. Boundaries also separate mature men from unavailable ones because they require emotional communication. Someone who is truly ready for a relationship can talk about hard things, express discomfort, ask questions, and work through misunderstanding. Someone who is not ready disappears, withdraws, or shuts down when faced with those same conversations. The boundary creates the moment where this difference becomes visible, and once visible, it becomes impossible to ignore the simple communication shift that makes a man feel chosen, not trapped. Is the ability to express your needs and desires in a way that shows confidence rather than dependency. Most people communicate standards from a place of fear of being abandoned, fear of disappointing someone, or fear of appearing too demanding. That fear changes the tone of the conversation. It turns a request into a warning, an expression into pressure, or a need into an ultimatum. But when someone speaks from a calm, self-assured place, they send a completely different message. I value this connection. I value myself, and I am simply sharing what helps me continue to stay emotionally present. That kind of communication doesn't push a man away. It makes him feel more invested because he understands he is being invited, not cornered. Imagine the difference between saying, if you don't change, I'm leaving, and saying, I love where this is going and it matters to me that we both feel secure and appreciated. One comes from panic and threat, the other from care and direction. This shift makes a man feel like he is being asked to build something with you rather than being forced to qualify for your approval. It invites him into partnership instead of defending himself against expectations. Men, like women, want to feel wanted, not merely tolerated or evaluated. When you express your needs while showing that you see his efforts and value the connection, he experiences the relationship as a place of growth, not scrutiny. He doesn't feel that loving you means losing his freedom. He feels that loving you means stepping into the best version of himself. This communication shift also works because it focuses on the future rather than dwelling in complaint. Instead of reliving what went wrong and assigning blame, it frames a conversation around what is possible and how the relationship could become stronger. People naturally respond better to invitations than accusations. When someone hears, here is how we can make this work, instead of here's what you did wrong, they are more open, present, and receptive. Their ego doesn't feel attacked, and their nervous system doesn't go into defense mode. They can listen, think, and engage from a place of maturity. This is the emotional space where relationships deepen. Men fall more in love when they feel that their partner is speaking to them as a teammate, not as an opponent. Another part of this shift is using wording that speaks from personal experience instead of labeling the other person's behavior. Statements like, I feel disconnected when communication disappears, land differently from, you never pay attention. The first expresses vulnerability and opens a window into your emotional world. The second sounds like a judgment and triggers resistance. When you let someone see how their actions impact your internal experience, you allow them to empathize. Empathy leads to understanding. Understanding leads to accountability. Accountability leads to growth. This is how emotional intimacy is created, not by demanding change, but by showing what change would mean to you. Men also feel chosen when communication makes them aware of the positive impact they have, not just the areas where they fall short. If every conversation is about what he isn't doing, he begins to associate the relationship with failure. But when communication includes recognition, I appreciate when you make the effort. It means something to me when you show up. He experiences the connection as a place where his presence matters. That is what makes a man invest more deeply. He starts to feel that he is not simply required, but desired, that he is not being evaluated, but invited, that he is not losing independence, but gaining partnership. That emotional experience is what makes love feel like a choice he is proud to make rather than a responsibility he is struggling to maintain.